All right, so let's get ready to, journey back to ancient Egypt for this deep dive.
Okay.
We're uncovering the story of Joseph,
Sounds good.
his rise to power, and the crazy dreams that made it all happen.
Yeah, this is a story from the book of Genesis,
Right.
packed with symbolism and intrigue.
Yeah, let's start with Pharaoh.
Yeah, okay.
In these bizarre dreams he's having.
Yeah.
He sees these 7 healthy cows just chilling by the Nile, and then out of nowhere, 7 more cows show up.
Right.
But these ones are super skinny and sickly.
Yeah.
And the weird part is the scrawny cows eat the healthy ones.
It's a pretty disturbing image.
Yeah.
It really shook Pharaoh.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine yourself as the ruler of a powerful empire. Having a dream like that,
Yeah,
you'd be freaked out too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse,
Okay.
he has another dream.
Another one.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This time, it's 7 plump ears of grain on 1 stalk, followed by 7 thin, withered ones that gobble up the healthy ones.
These images would have been particularly unsettling in ancient Egypt.
Yeah,
Cows and grain were symbols of prosperity and abundance.
yeah.
To see them destroyed in a dream
Uh-huh.
would have been a serious omen.
No wonder Pharaoh was desperate for answers.
Right.
He called in his magicians and wise men,
Yeah.
but none of them could figure it out.
It's interesting how the story highlights the limitations of human wisdom.
Yeah.
Even the most learned people in the kingdom couldn't interpret these seemingly simple dreams.
Right, it creates this sense of mystery,
Yeah.
like something bigger is at play.
Yeah,
And that's where Joseph enters the picture.
precisely. The chief butler,
Right,
who had been imprisoned with Joseph, suddenly remembers him
yeah.
and his ability to interpret dreams.
It's like a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
So he tells Pharaoh about Joseph, and I'm guessing Pharaoh, desperate for answers, calls him in.
Right.
What's that scene like?
Okay, picture this.
Yeah.
Joseph goes from a prison cell to standing before Pharaoh,
Okay.
the most powerful man in Egypt.
Yeah.
He gets a quick makeover,
Okay.
shaved, changed clothes,
Wow.
and then he's brought before the king.
What a dramatic entrance.
Yeah.
So what does he say to Pharaoh?
Okay.
Does he launch into some, long, complicated explanation?
Actually, he starts with a pretty humble statement.
Okay.
He says, it is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace.
Interesting.
Right.
So he's acknowledging that his ability to interpret dreams
Yeah,
is a gift from a higher power.
exactly.
Okay.
He's not taking credit for it,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty remarkable considering the situation.
Yeah, but he doesn't hesitate to give Pharaoh the interpretation, right?
Not at all.
Okay.
He confidently explains that both dreams signify the same thing.
Okay.
7 years of abundant harvest,
Yeah.
followed by 7 years of severe famine.
Oh, wow.
And the fact that Pharaoh had the same dream twice,
Yeah.
that was like a divine exclamation point.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's interesting how the number 7 pops up here.
Hmm.
Wasn't that a significant number in ancient cultures?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The number 7 often represented completeness or perfection
Yeah.
in this context.
Yeah.
It emphasizes the cyclical nature of the prophecy, the inevitable swing from abundance to scarcity.
So how does Pharaoh react to all of this?
Mm-hmm.
Does he believe Joseph?
He's completely convinced.
Oh, wow.
The story says that Pharaoh recognizes Joseph's wisdom
Right.
and declares, there is no one as discerning and wise as you.
Talk about high praise.
Right.
What happens next?
Mhm.
Does Pharaoh just say, thanks and send him back to prison?
Not quite.
Okay.
Pharaoh appoints Joseph to oversee the entire land of Egypt
Wow.
to manage the upcoming crisis.
Wow. From prisoner to the right-hand man of the Pharaoh.
Yeah,
That's a pretty impressive promotion.
it is.
And it doesn't
Doesn't
stop
take that.
there.
It does. To show Joseph's new status,
Okay.
Pharaoh gives him his own signet ring,
Wow.
dresses him in fine linen garments,
Jeez.
puts a gold chain around his neck,
Wow.
and provides him with the second chariot in the kingdom.
It's like those makeover montages in movies.
Yeah.
Where the character goes from, rags to riches in an instant.
Right.
But this wasn't just about appearances, was
Well,
it?
okay. Joseph had a real job to do.
Yeah. What were his first steps in preparing Egypt for the coming famine?
Joseph, demonstrating his incredible foresight,
Okay.
advises Pharaoh to appoint officers to gather 1/5 of the harvest during the 7 years of abundance.
Okay.
This grain would then be stored in cities across the land,
Right.
creating a massive reserve for the lean years ahead.
So it wasn't just about stockpiling grain.
Right.
It was about creating a system for collecting and distributing it effectively.
Exactly.
Okay, so they've got the plan in place. What happens next?
Okay.
Do the 7 years of abundance actually come to pass? And does the famine hit as hard as Joseph's predicted?
Well, that's a story for part 2 of our deep dive.
All right, listeners, we'll be back soon to unravel the next chapter of Joseph's incredible journey.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the story of Joseph.
Yeah.
Last time, we left off with Joseph, now second in command to Pharaoh,
Right.
laying out his plan to stockpile grain in preparation for the coming famine.
A plan that was rooted in practicality and foresight.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about surviving. It was about using the good times to prepare for the bad.
Right.
A valuable lesson for any era,
Absolutely.
wouldn't you say?
So what happens next?
Okay.
Do those 7 years of plenty actually happen as Joseph predicted?
The book of Genesis tells us that Egypt did,
Okay.
in fact, experience those bountiful years.
Wow.
Joseph, in his new leadership role,
Yeah.
diligently oversaw the gathering and storing of the grain.
It's interesting to think about the logistics of that. How did they manage to collect and store such massive quantities of grain?
It would have been a huge undertaking,
Yeah.
requiring a high level of organization and coordination.
Right.
Imagine the workforce, the infrastructure needed for transport and storage.
The story mentions that Joseph gathered grain as the sand of the sea
Right.
until he stopped counting, for it was immeasurable.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like your average silo.
It's a powerful image,
Yeah.
meant to convey the sheer abundance of those years
Right.
and the success of Joseph's plan.
Right.
But as you know,
Yeah.
good times don't always last.
And then the famine hits.
Exactly.
Okay.
It strikes not only Egypt, but all the surrounding lands.
Wow.
Suddenly, those symbols of prosperity in Pharaoh's dream, the cows and grain, become incredibly scarce.
Yeah.
People are desperate for food,
Right.
and all eyes turn to Egypt,
Okay.
the only nation with a surplus.
It must have been a chaotic time.
Oh, yeah.
With people from all over flocking to Egypt.
Right.
How did Joseph handle that sudden influx of desperate people?
He had to strike a delicate balance.
Okay.
He needed to meet the immediate needs of the hungry,
Yeah.
while also ensuring that the grain reserves would last.
He couldn't just open the floodgates and give everything away.
Right.
Okay.
So he set up a system for distributing the grain,
Right.
making sure it was available to those in need,
Okay.
both within Egypt and from other lands.
Makes sense. It sounds almost like a rationing system.
Yeah.
But did that include everyone? Or was it just for the wealthy and powerful?
The story indicates that the famine affected people from all walks of life.
Right.
Even Joseph's own brothers,
Okay.
who, remember, had sold him into slavery years earlier.
Wait, his brothers show up?
They do.
Talk about an awkward family reunion.
It's a pivotal moment in the story,
Yeah.
highlighting the themes of forgiveness and reconciliation that we see unfold later.
Okay.
But for now, it emphasizes just how far-reaching the famine was.
Right.
Even Joseph's own family had to travel to Egypt to buy grain.
Wow. That puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
So Egypt, thanks to Joseph's foresight, goes from being just another nation to becoming this lifeline for the entire region.
And that shift in power dynamics would have had significant implications.
I bet they had the one resource everyone needed,
Yeah.
which gave them considerable influence.
Precisely. You could say they were holding all the cards.
Yeah.
It's a testament to Joseph's leadership
Mm-hmm.
that he not only anticipated the challenge,
Right.
but also managed the situation with wisdom and compassion.
He didn't exploit the situation for personal gain
Right.
or hold a grudge against those who had wronged him.
Indeed. Instead, he used his position to help others,
Okay.
even those who, in his case,
Yeah.
were directly responsible for his past suffering.
Which brings us back to that dramatic reunion with his brothers.
Right.
How does that play out?
Okay.
Do they even recognize him?
That's where the story takes another fascinating turn. But before we dive into that emotional roller coaster,
Yeah.
I think it's worth pausing to reflect on the significance of Joseph's rise to power.
Okay, let's zoom out for a moment
Yeah.
and look at the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the key takeaways here?
On one level, it's a story about the importance of preparation and planning.
Okay.
Joseph's ability to anticipate the famine
Right.
and put a plan in place
Yeah.
saved countless lives.
It's a timeless lesson, really.
It is.
We might not be facing a biblical famine,
Right.
But there are always challenges ahead.
Exactly. Whether it's on a personal level,
Uh-huh.
a business level, or a societal level,
Right.
being proactive and having a strategy can make all the difference.
Absolutely.
And I think it also speaks to the importance of strong leadership.
Joseph wasn't just a dreamer.
Hmm.
He was a doer.
Right.
He had the vision and the practical skills to see his plan through.
And he wasn't afraid to make tough decisions.
Yeah.
Even if they meant going against the grain.
Right.
Remember, at that time, stockpiling grain for years on end would have seemed radical.
It would have been a gamble, but it paid off big time.
It did.
And he didn't let his past hardships embitter him. He used his position to help others,
Yeah,
even those who had betrayed him.
that's a powerful message of forgiveness and compassion,
Yeah.
especially in the face of adversity.
Right.
It reminds us that holding on to anger and resentment ultimately hurts us more than anyone else.
All right, I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay.
We've got to find out what happens next.
Yeah.
How does that reunion with Joseph's brothers play out?
Well, that's the story for the final part of our deep dive.
Listeners, you won't want to miss the dramatic conclusion to Joseph's journey.
Okay.
We'll be back soon to unravel the final chapter. Stay tuned.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the story of Joseph.
Okay.
We left off
Right.
with a real cliffhanger.
Yeah.
His brothers, the ones who sold him into slavery all those years ago, showing up in Egypt,
Yeah.
desperate for food.
Yeah.
Talk about a family reunion
Right.
filled with tension.
It's a powerful moment in the story.
Oh, yeah.
Here's Joseph, the second most powerful man in Egypt,
Right.
face to face with the people who betrayed him.
I can only imagine the emotions
Yeah.
swirling around in that room.
Right.
Does Joseph reveal his identity right away?
He doesn't.
Okay.
The story tells us that he recognized them,
Mm.
but they didn't recognize him.
Okay.
This gives him a chance to observe them,
Yeah.
test their character,
Right.
and see if they've changed at all.
So he's playing the long game here.
He is.
It must have taken incredible restraint
Yeah.
not to confront them immediately.
Right.
What does he do?
Over a series of encounters,
Okay.
he puts his brothers through a series of tests.
Oh, wow.
He even accuses them of being spies
Jeez.
and demands that they bring their youngest brother,
Okay.
Benjamin, to Egypt to prove their honesty.
Wow, he's really putting them through the ringer.
He is.
It sounds like he's almost orchestrating events. Like he has a bigger plan in mind.
I think that's a great observation.
Okay.
On one hand, he's testing them, seeing if they've learned from their past mistakes
Yeah.
and grown as people.
Right.
But I also think there's a deeper longing there,
Okay.
a desire to reunite with his family,
Mm-hmm.
especially his father,
Right.
whom he hasn't seen in years.
It makes you wonder what was going through his brothers' minds during all of this.
They're confused,
Yeah.
scared,
Right.
desperate to prove their innocence.
Yeah.
They even express guilt over how they treated Joseph years ago,
Wow.
not realizing they're talking directly to him.
The irony is almost too much to bear.
It is.
Joseph must have had nerves of steel to keep up this charade.
He does. It shows a remarkable level of self-control and emotional maturity.
Right.
But finally, after multiple tests,
Yeah.
Joseph can no longer contain himself. He sends everyone out of the room
Yeah.
and breaks down weeping and revealing his true identity.
What a moment. What do his brothers do?
They're terrified.
Yeah.
They think he's going to seek revenge for their past actions.
I would be too.
But in an act of incredible grace,
Okay.
Joseph reassures them.
Yeah.
He tells them not to be distressed or angry with themselves for selling him into Egypt.
Wow.
He even goes so far as to say that it was all part of God's plan to save lives.
Wow. He's not just forgiving them.
Right.
He's reframing their betrayal as part of a larger purpose.
Yeah,
That's a powerful message of redemption.
it is.
What happens next?
Joseph invites his entire family to come live in Egypt,
Okay.
where he can provide for them during the famine.
So after all the trials and tribulations,
Yeah.
the story ends with a heartwarming reunion.
It does. It's a beautiful reminder that even in the darkest of times,
Yeah.
there's always hope for forgiveness, reconciliation, and a brighter future.
And it highlights the enduring power of family, even when broken by betrayal and hardship.
It's a story that continues to resonate thousands of years later.
Absolutely.
Joseph's journey speaks to timeless themes
Yeah.
of ambition, jealousy, forgiveness, and resilience.
What do you think are some of the key takeaways from this deep dive? What can we learn from Joseph's experience, even today?
There's so many layers to this story
Right,
on a
yeah.
personal level.
Yeah.
It teaches us to stay true to ourselves, even in the face of adversity,
Okay.
to forgive those who have wronged us, and to never lose hope.
And on a larger scale.
It highlights the importance of strong ethical leadership,
Okay.
especially during times of crisis.
Yeah.
Joseph's foresight, his ability to plan for the future,
Yeah.
and his willingness to make tough decisions saved countless lives.
And his compassion and forgiveness serve as a powerful example for us all.
They do.
It's a reminder that holding on to anger and resentment only hurts us in the end.
Absolutely.
Well, this deep dive into the story of Joseph has been incredibly insightful.
It have.
We've seen how dreams, interpretations, and relationships can shape the course of history.
They can.
And how even when faced with betrayal and hardship,
Yeah.
redemption and second chances are always possible.
They are.
It's a message worth remembering as we navigate the challenges of our own lives. So listeners, as you go about your week, I encourage you to think about the story of Joseph.
Okay.
What resonates with you?
Yeah.
What lessons can you apply to your own life? And how can you, like Joseph, use your talents and experiences to make a positive impact on the world?
Food for thought indeed. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.